Good morning. Our Parsha starts in the middle of a conversation between Hashem and Moshe that actually began at the end of last week's Parsha. Moshe accuses Hashem or questions Hashem in the way that he has sent Moshe to the Jewish people, and he says, Lama hare'ota lama zeh? Why have you done evil to this nation? Lama zeh shlachtani? Why have you sent me? Hashem, you sent me to make things better for the Jewish people, but instead they have become worse. And Hashem's reply to Moshe in last week's Parsha, he says, now you will see the mighty hand that I will send against Pharaoh. But at the beginning of our Parsha, Hashem continues with a slightly different emphasis. V'yedaber Elokim el Moshe. Hashem speaks, or Elokim speaks to Moshe. V'yomer elav, and he says to him, Ani Hashem, I am Hashem, the four-letter name. V'eira el Avraham el Yitzchak vel Yaakov, and I appeared to Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, El Shaddai, with this name of Hashem, which we're going to call Kel Shakai out of respect. We're not going to say the full name when we can avoid it. But I appeared to Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov with this name of Kel Shakai, Ushmi Hashem, but this four-letter name of Hashem, Lo Nodati Lahem, I was not known to them by that name. So there are three names of Hashem used within these two verses. Elokim is speaking to Moshe, telling him, I am Hashem, whereas the forefathers knew me as Kel Shakai. Now it's true that the forefathers did have that interaction with Hashem of Kel Shakai. In fact, if we look at the beginning of chapter 17 in Bereshit, it says, Vayhi Avram ben Tishim Shana v'Teisha Shanim. Avram was 99 years old. V'yeira Hashem el Avram, and Hashem appears to Avram, Vayomer elav, and says to him, Ani Kel Shakai, Ani El Shaddai, I am El Shaddai, Hitalech lefanai ve'yeh tamim. Walk in front of me and be perfect. So we see Hashem relating to Avram by that name, but the truth is, Hashem relates to Avraham by the other name as well, by that four-letter name. If you look a little bit earlier, chapter 15, verse number 7, Vayomer elav, and he says to him, Ani Hashem, I am Hashem, the four-letter name. Asher hotzaiticha me Ur-Kasdim, who has taken you out of Ur-Kasdim, lateit lacha et haaretz hazot l'rishta, to give you this land to inherit it. So whilst Hashem did appear to the forefathers as Kel Shakai, he also appeared to them as Hashem. What is he saying over here? And so really to understand this, we need to understand what we mean by speaking about the different names of Hashem. And the basic answer is that Hashem is extremely straightforward on the one hand, but extremely rich and complex and deep on the other hand. And just as you and I have many different roles that we play, we may be a father, a mother, a husband, a wife, a brother, a sister, a son, a daughter, an employee, an employer, a friend. Whilst we may be all of those things, those are different roles that we play, and different people relate to us completely differently. The way that we behave towards a spouse is not at all the way in which we behave towards a colleague. And so, we have different names for these different roles. That's how we understand the different roles, the different names of Hashem. This first name we saw, Elokim, is the name referring, amongst other things, to Hashem's justice. Hashem speaks to Moshe in justice. Hashem says, Moshe, you ask me this isn't right, you're invoking justice, then we'll discuss this in terms of justice. And we must be aware that that's not always a good, intelligent thing for us to do in our relationship with Hashem, because justice is absolute. And whilst we certainly have done many good things, it is not beyond the realms of possibility that we have done some negative things in our lives as well. And when you invoke justice, you invoke full justice on everything. So Hashem says to Moshe, Moshe, you're asking for justice. You'll see justice. That's the first point. It's a warning. But the second point is these names of Kel Shakai and of Hashem. Hashem says, I am Hashem. You are going to see the name Hashem. But the forefathers only saw the name Kel Shakai. The way Rashi explains it is that he says, Vayomer elav ani Hashem, and he says to him, I am Hashem, Ne'eman l'shalem schar tov lemithalchim lafanai. I'm reliable to pay a good reward to those who walk before me. So this name Hashem, one of the things it signifies is a name where Hashem delivers on his promises and gives the reward. And he says, but for the forefathers, I only appeared to them, Bekel Shakai, Hivtachtim Havtachot. I made promises to them. Uvakulan amartu lehem ani Kel Shakai. And with all of them I said, I am Kel Shakai. I made promises, but they did not see the deliverance on those promises. So we see the nature of these two names. Name Kel Shakai, the Marahal of Prague explains, quoting Rashi earlier, is related to the word die. El means God, Shaddai from the word die, which means enough. I am the God of enough. I'm the God who has the wherewithal to deliver. Now when somebody says to you, I have enough, what they're asking you to do is they're asking you to trust them. You come to borrow money from the bank and you say, I'm good for it. You can trust me. I have the wherewithal to pay you back. That's what Hashem said to the forefathers. Hashem related in terms of promises to the forefathers, not as one who delivered on the promises because the time was not yet ripe. The Jewish people were still being created. But Hashem says, trust me, the time will come. That's a very special thing. When Hashem trusts you to trust him, that's a Kel Shakai moment. However, with Moshe, Hashem says, you're going to see a different name of Hashem. You're going to see a different behavior. You're going to see the name of Hashem where Hashem delivers. And that's also very special. When those promises are brought into reality, when all the hopes and dreams and wishes are finally fulfilled. That's what this generation is going to see. And it's important for us to see this in our own life. To see when Hashem is making promises, but perhaps the time is not yet right. When there are things that are coming in our lives, but not right away. And to see when these are going to be actually brought into reality, when it's going to be through the name of Hashem. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein has a wonderful and fascinating explanation over here. He says that another meaning, El Shaddai, so Dai means enough. He says that's the name with which Hashem says enough to the world. That's when he says it's time to stop. And he says initially his relationship with the slavery was going to be that the Jewish people would be enslaved until the time came when Hashem would say, enough is enough. Stop the slavery. That the Jewish people would hear an inner voice calling them to do what's right, to stop being cruel, to let the Jewish people go. That's the name of El Shaddai. That's the name when Hashem works within us and within the world to bring us to a spiritual and moral revolution and evolution, to say, stop. What I'm doing is not good. What I'm doing is not healthy. But sometimes that's not enough. And that's what Hashem's saying to Moshe now. When I spoke to the forefathers about the redemption, I never promised them a miraculous redemption. I promised them a redemption that would take place naturally over time as the Egyptians would mature. But I can see that that's not happening fast enough. I can see it's not happening well enough. And therefore I'm going to intervene with the name of Hashem, with this name that transcends nature. I'm going to come in with signs, wonders, and miracles. And I'm going to take the Jewish people out. And so we need to look at this in our own lives as well. When have we had the voice of Hashem quietly guiding us towards maturity and wisdom? And when have we had a great outward sign from Hashem, showing us that we are on the wrong path, that we need to wake up, that things need to change? Sometimes it's very subtle, sometimes it's very overt. Those two are different names of Hashem, different roles that Hashem plays. And please God, we should be privileged to see them in our own lives. Have a wonderful Shabbos.